As if friendship isn't difficult enough, welcome 2020, where we have a pandemic and racial revolution and an election year. There's so many things to disagree about, so many things to get offended by, so many things to be on different sides of issues. And I've been hearing from so many of you. It's so tricky. It's so tricky to know how to hang out with each other when we both feel differently about whether we should wear masks or not. It's hard to know how to engage on Facebook or on social media when we find out that we disagree on political issues. It's really easy to hurt people without even meaning to when we take a stance for something and or not take a stance for something and realize that our words or our inactions or actions hurt somebody. And so we've got a year where all of us are welcome to a year of like PhD level practice of friendship. And I just wanted to make a little video just reminding us as we pop in here and practice. This is a hard year for even making new friends. And it's a really tricky year to make sure we maintain and keep the relationships that we have strong. What we don't want to do is come out of this lonelier, not only because so many of us are more distanced from each other, but also because we're hurting each other's feelings along the way, right? And so we want to do everything we can to maintain healthy, meaningful relationships with the people that we love and know. So I wanted to, first of all, remind us that commonalities are not what bond people. Commonalities are not what bonds people. That is a really hard thing. Like I've read the research and my brain still thinks it matters, right? I hear most people say worldview, we have to have a shared worldview, or I can't be friends with somebody from the other political side, or if they believe this, then I just don't want anything to do with them. And it's really easy to kind of create these narratives or these stories that we have to have something in common, this thing in common. And a reminder for all of you who are like good little friendship champions in this world, it is not having something in common that bonds two people together, but repeat after me, it's the three requirements of relationship that bond people together. And so we have to have positivity, which means we both need to feel accepted. We both need to feel appreciated. We both need to feel loved and validated. We both need to walk away feeling good about each other. We need to enjoy being in each other's presence. Consistency. This is frequency. It's also the history. It's our interactions. It's the scaffolding that builds our relationship of our time spent together. But it's not just time spent together. It's building a reliability in that time. It's being consistent in our behaviors. It's being consistent in our kindness. It's being consistent in our communication and our reaching out and our interaction. This is what helps us feel like we can trust the other person. We feel safe because we know the other person. We can predict how they will respond, hopefully, the more we practice that. And then vulnerability. Vulnerability is where we feel seen, where we feel like you know us, where you feel like you're curious about me, where I take the time to really learn about you, and where we both feel like the other person wants to know us, what it's like to be who we are, what it's like to see the world through our lens, through our filter, and to trust that, right? To believe that, to understand that, to not try to change you to be like me, but to want to see you for you. And so you can see how all three of these, if you have something in common, it might help accelerate some of these things. You might show up feeling more positive. You might show up feeling more vulnerable with somebody. And so certainly commonalities can help contribute to these three things. But it's really important to remember that it is not having something in common that makes your friendship. It's practicing these three things that makes your friendship. I talk about this a lot in my new book, The Business of Friendship, which I get into more, which is super exciting. But just to remind us here in this realm of politics and issues and causes and all that kind of stuff, that we really don't have to be on the same aisle. We have plenty of examples of people who vehemently disagree and show up being in relationship with each other and love each other and disagree. So we know it can be done. It comes down to whether we both walk away feeling these three things. Let me give you an example of a couple years ago. I was in a family member heard me speak on these three things and said to me at the end of my talk, so I think that the one that you and I need to work on, always a little scary when somebody says that, right? And they said, I think it's consistency. I think we need to interact more often. And I could have just kind of said, yeah, yeah, wouldn't that be great? And instead, I practiced vulnerability and I checked in with myself. How did that feel? And I realized there was uh, mm, kind of a hesitation to want to interact more. And I realized that was because we didn't have enough positivity. I didn't want to interact more because it didn't end up feeling good. I always felt like she was trying to change me and trying to convince me of her political views. And I realized in our case, it was a really political charged relationship. And so I took a deep breath and I said, you're right, we do probably need more consistency. Unfortunately, I actually think that that's hard for us to both want to do if it doesn't end up feeling good to both of us. I wonder if it's actually not positivity that we need to start with. And so it opened up this really beautiful conversation between us with how can we decrease the negative feelings and how can we increase the positive feelings. If we get that foundation of positivity feeling good, we will want to be more consistent and we will feel safer being vulnerable. So the other two are built on this foundation of it really, really, really matters that both of us end a phone call, end our time together, end our interactions feeling accepted, feeling satisfied, feeling valued. Really important. The less that's happening, the less we're going to want to keep showing up in each other's lives. If we feel judged, if we feel subtly like they're being passive aggressive or trying to change us, or they think we're living in fear, or they think we're this or that, or blind to the issues, or immune to this. I mean, all the different things that if we walk away worrying that the other person thinks that about us, subconsciously we're not going to want to like show up more frequently and be in that relationship, and the relationship starts to fray. And so I have noticed that in many of our cases what we need to work on more is positivity for sure, which also requires vulnerability. It also requires us showing up and being honest, checking in with ourselves, and maybe having those conversations. So, in your case with the relationships, maybe it looks more like vulnerability, starting with kind of naming it to be able to say to somebody, I know we probably don't see eye to eye on this. I know that we kind of look at this differently. And I really, really want to protect our friendship through this election cycle, through this pandemic, through this issue. Would you be willing to brainstorm with me what we each could do and what we can do to help protect our friendship? I mean, wouldn't that be a beautiful question? That takes vulnerability to kind of name it and to ask the question of, will you have this conversation with me? But really, it's a beautiful thing. It helps us talk about our relationship. It's vulnerability that invites us to actually engage, and it asks a question quickly. We're not condemning them. We're not saying when you do this, da, da, da. We're just saying our friendship matters to me. And I know that we could be at risk because we don't see eye to eye on this. What can we do? What do we both need in order to feel good about protecting our relationship and walking away feeling loved by each other? Because we do love each other. So what can we do? And to be like, what helps you feel loved by me when we have these conversations or when this happens? Or what am I doing that I don't know about that might be insulting or offending to you, offensive to you? And that takes vulnerability because we have to be willing to want to hear the answer. And we have to be willing to be honest and show up and to say we matter to each other and to kind of put ourselves on the line and say, yes, I do care about you. I do care about this. Let's talk about that. Maybe vulnerability looks more like being able to have a conversation where we show up and say, I know you don't mean that, but when you do this, this is actually what it feels like to me. And to give them an out to say, I know you're not showing up trying to offend or trying to hurt, but just to be able to say, I just want you to know how that vote affects me in my life. And it would mean a lot if you were able to, if I could share that with you without feeling judged. And so being able to kind of have those conversations with the people that we're closer to, where we've built some vulnerability, where we've built some consistency with them. Super, super important. Or maybe it's being able to say, I know we disagree on such and such. I think it would be kind of cool in our friendship to not have to be able to avoid the subject altogether. I was wondering if you would want to do a Zoom call or have lunch or something where we actually just both take the time to be able to give each other permission to ask questions about our beliefs, or to really each have the opportunity to share why this matters and what matters, and not to try to change each other, but just to understand each other. When was the last time somebody just showed curiosity about you and your beliefs and said, "I want to learn about you. You're my friend. I want to know what riles you up? What does this provoke? What touches you in this?" And if we can just both show up and say, "This isn't about right or wrong. This is about two people wanting to take the time to hear each other, to see each other, to feel seen and known." And our number one goal is that we both walk away from this conversation feeling like we were seen by my friend, by the other. Hmm, that's vulnerability. And then positivity, huge, 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 huge. And remember, the research shows that we have to have 5 positive emotions for every negative emotion. And so sometimes we need to look at how we can decrease the negative, and other times is how to increase more positive. So in the conversation with my friend, after we kind of talked about how we actually needed to practice more positivity, we made the decision that one of the things that was hurting our friendship was seeing all of, she posted a lot of political things, and it wasn't fair to our relationship that I viewed a lot of her posts as a negative feeling. I received all those posts that were completely opposite of my beliefs, and those were like hits where I was like, oh, why is she saying that, right? And so I was judging her for every time she posted something. So unfair to her, she's just racking up negative points, right? So there was nothing we could do to like make up the positive. So in this case, we needed to have that conversation, and we needed to say and make a decision about what that looks like. And so we decided that she wanted to keep posting that, and she was okay with me not following her posts. And so that helped bring the negative down. And then that allowed us to say, and what can we do that helps build positivity in our relationship that's not based on this subject that we haven't been able to quite figure out yet? Okay, let's play Words with Friends together, and let's do Marco Polo updates and show each other things going on. And so we really took the time to say, we need to start getting those 5 positive emotions up. We need to start bonding. We did a lot of damage on judging each other and trying to change each other politically. Let's put that on pause, and let's do everything we can to build up the positive. This is a relationship we want to save. And so we made conscious decisions about how to increase our positive time, how to enjoy each other, and how to decrease what was kind of hurting us at the time. Now, I would love to be in a relationship and believe that we can talk about all those things. I don't want to have taboo topics. I don't want to have topics that are off the table. In that case, we had to for a little bit in order to salvage that family relationship. But I would love to be able to have relationships with friends where we don't need to believe the exact same thing in order to be friends. And so, what does that look like for us to have those conversations? And how can we add positivity? How can we make a challenge to each other that we end by adding more gratitude to our relationship, by expressing what we admire in each other, for kind of saying, this might be a tough year, this might have some political stuff with it. We disagree. So let's make sure we do more acts of service for each other. Let's make sure that we really spend time and go have fun together. Let's make sure that we add in the factors that bring us together and bring us so much joy. And so we've got to get that ratio 5 to 1 back in balance. And so for all of us, the implications of this are so specific, and how you apply it, and how it's working out with your kids and your spouses. I mean, there's just so much to be offended by and hurt by and upset by. We are all kind of prone to take things personally, to add meaning to things, and we can do a lot of damage to ourselves and to each other. And I just want to end by that, maybe that point there is just reminding us that it has been a tough year for so many of us in so many ways. And so our emotional reserves might be a little lower than they normally are. We have been challenged. Many people, their anxiety is going up, the depression is going up. It's taking its toll. We are feeling the crunch of financial stress and of health stress, and of just kind of career stress and stress for our kids and stress for so many things. And so, one of the most powerful times where we need our friends, we also are at the greatest risk of hurting each other. And so, let's just breathe deep in empathy. And just remember, there's always one of the most important things in this world is to not take things personally. And that can be so hard to do. But let's remember that our friend is fighting her battles. He's doing the best he can. Every single one of us, none of us woke up saying, I want to hurt the people in my life today. None of us woke up and just said, I hope I offend everybody today. Nobody. Every single one of us is waking up wanting to do the best we can do today. And sometimes we don't have enough to do the best we would want to do, but we're doing with what we can. And so, what does it look like today? Who comes up for you in your mind that maybe you're just practicing a little bit more empathy? Who comes up in your mind that you're judging the harshest? And what would it look like to just offer compassion to that person today? Curiosity. What would it look like to show up with curiosity, not judgment? Vulnerability means being less defensive. Defensiveness is like the opposite of vulnerability, right? Vulnerability means being open, curious. I want to see you. I'm willing to let you see me. Defensiveness is walls up, ready to attack, feeling attacked. And so, one of the most important things we can do is say, these are people who I know at their core want what's best for me. We have practiced friendship. We love each other. We can do this. We can do hard things, is the thing being said a lot right now. And we can. We absolutely can. And our friendships are the place where we practice being the best version of ourselves. These aren't places where we just pull away, step away, discard because we're frustrated. These are the people that we say, okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where I get to practice the love I often say is so important. This is where I get to practice the compassion, the social justice, all the things that I say are important to me. This is where I do it. This is where I practice forgiveness, not just give lip service to it. This is where I practice boundaries. This is where I practice the gratitude. It's one thing to write 3 things in a journal every day. How do I express gratitude to this person, even when she's been hurting me or when I feel judged? This is the hard work. This is us in the gymnasium of our emotional growth. This is us doing spiritual growth. This is us rising to the occasion and choosing to increase the capacity of love in our lives. This is us saying, I'm going to love these people. I may not do it perfectly. I may not feel it all the time back from them, but this is what I'm called to right now. This is my corner of the world. This is my circle. This is my community. These are the people that I am going to show up and practice loving no matter what. I know it's hard, easier said than done, but this is where we get to do that. And that one relationship that was really, really hard for me an election cycle ago, and we're coming up on another election. And I can tell you, I feel that relationship is so, 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 so much more stable. We've been able to have conversations that were vulnerable and hard about, we want to be able to share our beliefs without hurting each other. How do we do that? How do we say, when you do that, it makes me feel like you're trying to change me? Okay, she says she's not trying to change me. Okay, so then how can we have this conversation where we both feel more seen, where we feel safe expressing our views, and where we don't each take it that the other person's trying to change me? How can I say this differently? How can I receive it differently? And we built a stronger relationship. And that relationship doesn't have to go to the top of the triangle and be the closest, most meaningful, safe person in my life. But she is a valuable relationship that I most certainly want that relationship to be as healthy as it can be wherever it resides on that triangle. And so we adjust our expectations accordingly, but we want to build healthy relationships that are built on a foundation of positivity, that feel reliable and safe, and that we feel seen. I want for you, no matter what big things are going on in the world, friendships where you both feel seen in safe and satisfying ways.